The Heat are listening to Jimmy Butler offers, and Jimmy prefers to go to a contending team, and the teams he listed was the Rockets, Mavs, and Warriors. I don't see the Rockets and Mavs making real offers for Jimmy Butler, because Butler doesn't fit what the Rockets need yet, and I'd prefer if the Rockets wait to put all their assets on an all-star that's younger. And the Mavs roster is just too good right now. The Mavs don't have any players that if I were them I want to trade for Jimmy Butler. Now the Warriors are very interesting because their championship window is closing with Steph and Draymond Green getting older. And Jimmy Butler can be that second star that Warriors fans always ask for. So I can see them making this trade if they get desperate. But for the trade to work, they would need to send out Wiggins and a couple of their young guys to make the salary work. So I think they don't make the trade. So what other team would make a trade for a 35-year-old Jimmy Butler? Shams just reported that Jimmy Butler is very interested in playing for the Phoenix Suns. If I'm the Phoenix Suns, I would be calling the Heat offering Bradley Beal on the 2031 first round pick for Jimmy Butler. It works out for the Heat because they don't have to rebuild and they get a first round pick to make more trades. Jimmy Butler to the Suns just solves everything that is wrong with the Suns. They get a wing with size that can play defense and drive to the rim. Bradley Beal can provide that at times, but he's just too small to be starting for the Suns. Plus Jimmy is a dog and a leader, which the Suns really need because when they play physical teams, they just turn into puppies and lose focus too much for a team that lost in the first round last year. Why would the Heat want Bradley Beal in a Jimmy Butler trade when he has a no trade clause and still has 2 years left on his crazy contract? Is a question that a lot of people are asking about. And I would understand why any NBA team wouldn't make this trade, but the Miami Heat are a weird team. After the Big Three left Miami, we saw that they never fully tanked. They just stayed mid until they found the next star that wanted to join the team like they did with Jimmy Butler. So why wouldn't the Heat want Bradley Beal for the next 2 years if they also get a first round pick with his contract and get to still compete even with Jimmy Butler being gone? Plus Bradley Beal would be okay going to the Heat since he is friends with Bam, and the Heat were one of the teams he originally wanted to be traded to. Bradley Beal is having a weird season for the Suns. When this Suns team is healthy, I don't expect much from him to the point where if he misses a game with KD and Book healthy, I'm like, okay, cool. I get to see how Ryan Dunn or Royce O'Neal play with the starters. But it's not like Beal has been bad this season. When Bradley Beal has played this season, he's been good offensively and defensively. But that's a problem with Beal. He's always getting some random injury and is out for a couple games. For example, the Suns had a 4-day break between games, and randomly a couple hours before the Suns had to play the Utah Jazz, Beal gets listed out for right knee swelling. Like, what was this man doing during the 4-day break to cause his knee to swell up? Heat fans, can you just give us Jimmy Butler for Bradley Beal? Should the Denver Nuggets trade for Jimmy Butler? If the Nuggets trade for Jimmy, they would need to send out Michael Porter Jr., Dario Saric, Zeke Naji, and a pick. I think this would work for both teams. The Heat would get a pick for trades and a forward at 6'10" that can help the team while they try to find the next all-star that wants to be traded. And the Nuggets get a real second option for the team that can let Jokic rest instead of making him play 40 minutes a night in the regular season. But I don't think this trade will happen because Jimmy Butler, if he gets traded, wants a max extension. And I doubt a team that didn't want to pay one of their starters that helped them win a championship will want to sign a 35-year-old Jimmy Butler to an extension. A team that no one is talking about that can trade for Jimmy Butler is the Kings. It's no secret that the Kings so far have been cheeks, and that DeMar hasn't helped them become a top 6 seed in the Western Conference. But if they trade for Jimmy, I think it would make them a serious team in the West, especially with Jimmy's defense and ability to draw fouls. And all they need to give up is Kevin Huerter, DeMar, Trey Lyles, and 3 first-round picks. I also think they have the depth to still be good after this trade. With Kevin Huerter traded, they get more minutes for Keon Ellis, and they can still make trades with their second-round picks to find a new backup center or just keep Alex Len as the backup. Trades that can make the Lakers a contender. The Lakers have a lot of bad players on bad salaries that are only one-way players, and some of them are just cheeks. So Lakers fans, be ready to give up those 2 first-round picks for good players. If I was the Lakers, I would call the Trailblazers to see if they will take Gabe Vincent, D'Lo, Jared Vanderbilt, and 2 first-round picks for Robert Williams and Jeremy Grant. With this trade, it gives the Lakers a wing that can create his own shot and can hit 40% from 3, and a center that is very good defensively and a lob threat. The Lakers can then start both players and have more length in the starting lineup with AD moving to the 4 spot and Robert Williams at the 5. And then the Lakers can have AD be the 5 at times with the bench, or they can keep playing Jackson Hayes, or trade for another backup center like Nick Richards from Charlotte. Bronny James in his first G League game just dropped 30 points. In the 4th quarter, he had 13 of the team's 21 points, and was being very aggressive in taking contact. And this is just a reminder that the bench warmers on any NBA team who you think are trash can go to the G League and can drop 30 points. Bronny James is a polarizing player that a lot of people think is cheeks, and is only in the league because of his dad. But I think Bronny James has the potential to be a rotation player. He just needs a couple of years to develop like any other player that gets drafted. So give me all the Bronny stock. The Warriors have traded DeAnthony Melton and 3 second-round picks for Dennis Schroeder and 1 second-round pick. I think this is an amazing trade for the Warriors. They get rid of a player that wasn't going to play for them this season for another player that is a good shot creator, especially if he comes off the bench for them and is a good point of attack defender. And they only have to give up 2 second-round picks for a guy that is averaging 18 points and 6 assists. This is also a good trade for the Nets because they get some picks and the team gets to start tanking to get a chance at getting the number 1 pick. If the Nets held on to Dennis Schroeder, they might have gotten more for him, but it was better for them to trade him now since they were winning too many games, and they needed to start tanking as soon as possible. Are the Warriors contenders now with the Dennis Schroeder trade? I don't think they are yet. They're just 1 center away from me taking them serious. If they want to go crazy and get get a good center like Vooch, who can shoot threes and be another shot creator on the team, then this team can be a serious problem in the West, because they'll have a lineup where everyone can shoot from 3. But I think they can also add another solid center and be a serious threat. The Warriors can call the Hornets and try to get Nick Richards, or they can also get Valanciunas from the Wizards. Just 2 players that can be solid for the Warriors and give them 20 minutes of good offense and good defense. Pods might be having one of the worst sophomore seasons that I've ever seen in the NBA. This man was hyping himself up and comparing himself to Luka Doncic, a top 5 NBA player. And the front office during summer league games were saying this guy has the potential to be an all-star this season. The Warriors expected him to make that leap this season, but this man has been so cheeks this season they had to trade for Dennis Schroeder to fill in his role on the team. Pod so far is averaging 8 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists on terrible efficiency. He has a 37.6 field goal percentage and is shooting 25% from 3. The Warriors should have just sold high in the offseason and traded him for Paul George or Larry Markkinen. What did the Sixers do to the basketball gods to have to deal with this season from hell? Jared McCain, the Sixers rookie, was the only bright spot in a terrible season for the Sixers, and now it's revealed he has a torn meniscus. They also got Joel Embiid back for 2 games after he's been dealing with the knee issue, and somehow he got elbowed in the face and got a random injury I've never heard of called a sinus fracture. And what makes it worse is there has only been 53 facial fractures in the NBA's history, and somehow Embiid has had 3 of them. It's okay, Sixers fans, this is a safe place. After a win against the Knicks last night, the Hawks are the definition of a confusing team in the NBA. They've beat the Celtics, Cavs, and Knicks, but have lost twice to the Wizards, one of the worst teams in the league. They might be a team that plays up to their opponent, so if they're going against a tanking team, they just expect it to be an easy win. And when it's a playoff team, they go all out. And I really like how this Hawks team is set up with Trae Young as the engine on offense, and they have a lot of wings around him with length and athleticism that can defend and make it easier to hide him on defense. I think they're just one more guard or center away from being a contender, but I don't know if they'll be able to find an all-star that fits what this team needs. Would you rather have SGA or Jason Tatum for the next 5 years? They're both first-team All-NBA players that are in MVP conversations, but I feel like SGA is just better than Jason Tatum. I think both are at the same level on defense, but SGA is a better scorer because he has multiple ways that he can score what Jason Tatum doesn't. SGA is just a consistent scorer that will drive to the rim and get his fouls, while Jason Tatum can have his highs and lows. During the Celtics playoff run, their most consistent scorer was Jaylen Brown, and that's why he won Finals MVP. And if the Thunder win the championship this season, I don't see how anyone else on the roster can win Finals MVP besides SGA. Would you rather have Darius Garland or Tyrese Halliburton for the next 5 years? Both players are young all-star point guards that can make an impact on any team, but the one that I think would have the biggest impact is Tyrese Halliburton. I just think Halliburton has a higher ceiling than Darius Garland. Yes, Halliburton hasn't been the same since his hamstring injury and is having a weird season where he plays better at home than at away games, but we've seen that at Halliburton's peak, he can be an all-NBA player that can take your team to the Eastern Conference Finals. And I like that Halliburton is big for his position at 6'5", which makes it easier to hide him on defense, while Darius Garland is 6'1" and can get wrecked by some players on a mismatch. Would you rather have Chet or Paolo Banchero for the next 5 years? Both players were drafted number 1 and number 2 in the 2022 NBA draft and have had a positive impact on both their teams, but the one that has the biggest impact has to be Paolo Banchero. Chet is probably better than Paolo on defense by a little bit, but it's not a big gap. However, on offense, I would say there's a gap between Paolo and Chet, because Paolo is the first option on a playoff team and has proven he can be good as the first option, while Chet is the third option and sometimes the second option on his team on a good night. I don't know if Chet would do good as a first option compared to Paolo, and I would rather build a team around a player like Paolo Banchero that can be a first option, and it helps that he can play the 4 and 5 sometimes because of his size and athleticism. Would you rather have LaMelo Ball or Paolo Banchero for the next 5 years? Both players are all-stars that play different positions that are important for any team, but I would rather have Paolo Banchero because it's hard to find a player with his skill set at 6'10". Melo is better on offense, but Paolo makes up for it by being better on defense. And on offense, Paolo can still be effective because of his size and how he can draw fouls. Plus, Melo has been in the league for 5 years and has only had 1 season where he's played more than 65 games, while Paolo has already done it twice.